Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Vibing with Sleazy, the podcast. This is season 5, episode 9, and I want to thank everybody for listening, tuning in, and downloading. The season's been a blast so far. I've been pumping out a lot of solo episodes, so I hope everybody's been listening to those. I've been putting a lot of sports content out. It is March Madness. Opening day for baseball was yesterday, so everybody, thank you for tuning in and downloading. I was shocked before this episode. I checked the numbers on the baseball and March Madness, and I was shocked how many people listened to my baseball preview. So shout out to the baseball fans and the people that listened to that. I was like, that's one of my highest listened episodes. So I don't know. I put a lot of MLB hashtags in baseball. So shout out to those people listening and supporting. So I got a very special episode today. I have a special guest, and it's somebody that I've connected with here recently. And it's somebody that I think is very intelligent, very wise.
Uh,
Very fun to talk to, and overall is just a great human being. And it's somebody that is just, in my opinion, striving to be the best each day. And one of the most impressive self teachers that I have ever met in my life. So none other than my special guest is Rico Robinson. How you doing?
hey man, doing good. That was a high compliment from a high place. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Yeah, no, I had to say that to kind of inform the listeners on how we met. Shout out to our mutual friend Frankie Blyce.
Hey dude, Vibe
Yeah,
Tribe.
yeah, Vibe Tribe all day, and Frankie's actually going to be coming on a season 5 episode, so we're going to be talking about Vibe Tribe and kind of what he's got going on with that and fatherhood and all that. So Frankie's doing real well. Frankie actually got some WWE SmackDown tickets, and this was last year. And he ends up hitting me up, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go?" And I was like, "Of course, I love pro wrestling." So then he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna hit up. I think Vincent's gonna go with his family." Then he's like, "I might hit up Rico." So I'm kind of like, Rico, that name kind of rung a bell, but like me and Rico didn't know each other that well in high school at all. I mean, we might have just know who each other were, but just didn't know each other. So I was like, okay, cool. So I meet Frankie, we go pick up Rico, and bam, we hit it off like that. And so what's crazy is we get to SmackDown and we're at the Yum Center, and Rico's sitting next to me to the left, and there's Frankie, and then you got Vince and his family. And I just hear Rico talking about houses and property management, and I was like, "Oh, that's what I do. Like, I'm a project manager for a property management company." So at that point, I knew we connected, and then ever since I've been connecting with you, man. You're impressive, man.
Hey, I appreciate it. First of all, big shout out to Vincent and Frankie and the WWE. That was a absolute blast. I had watched wrestling when I was in elementary school, and seen it on here and there throughout the years. But to go to a wrestling match is
Yeah.
just a whole nother experience.
Oh
That was
yeah,
a, that was a
dude.
game changer.
I could tell you were like blown away by a lot of the stuff, and then
I
also
was.
too, you hit the concession stand hard. We got to talk about it. You were enjoying some of the concession stand items, and
You
I'll be
were,
honest,
yes.
I was looking over. I was like, man, I'm kind of getting jealous. This guy's got he's got the assortment.
Yeah.
That's how you got to do it. That's how you have to do it at pro wrestling. So I've been to many wrestling events with Frankie, and
Yeah.
it's been a blast. And over the years, just going to all the matches. And one time, me and Frankie went and saw John Cena versus The Big Show in a steel cage
Oh man,
at Broadbent Arena.
that's
And
wrestling goes.
yeah, for sure. And out of nowhere, we're sitting there in the crowd. And you could see like some of the producers, and so I don't know if people listening. He was in WCW, WWE, but his name was Finley or Fit Finley, Irish wrestler. So he used to carry a shillelagh, and he would beat the shit out of people with the shillelagh, and like his little leprechaun would come out and just hit people with this shit.
You're
So
gonna have to you're gonna have to make me familiar with what a shillelagh is.
So a shillelagh is like, I'm gonna have to actually look more into it, but it's like an Irish piece of wood, like a cane. It's kind
Yeah.
of something like a leprechaun would walk with, like a
Right.
leprechaun cane. So this dude Finley, he'd have this thing in his outfit, he'd have it in his boot, it'd be underneath the ring, and sometimes he called Hornswoggle, which was his little leprechaun. And Hornswoggle come out and just poke an eye or something. And he's hitting him with the
Yeah.
shillelagh. So what was crazy was like Broadbent was super silent, and it was like This is like the match before John Cena versus the Big Show, and I just see Finley, and he's a producer for WWE, so he's like standing there by the fans, but he's kind of like in this little gated off area. It's
Right.
just silent. And
Yeah.
I know he ain't wrestled in like probably 5+ years, so nobody's yelling at him or nothing. I just go, Finley, give me the shillelagh. He
Nah.
turned, he turned around and gave me the wink and like the point.
Ah.
And then he went right back to producing, like went right back to the thing. And me and Frankie were dying because we were
That's
like,
epic.
he heard that shit.
That's epic. Let me ask you this. Do you have an NFL team?
Yes, the Bengals.
Okay. Um, I don't want to get off subject here, but Bengals fans, I've noticed have started to become like UK fans. And I used to like the Bengals.
Yeah.
And after the fans became obnoxious, man, I backed off the Bengals. So that's tough. But they're local. I mean, they're
You got
close.
to come
I
back.
get it.
You got to come back, bro. You got to come back.
Well, the thing is I was born in Atlanta and I'm a big Atlanta Falcons fan. But I digress. Maybe you should talk about sports a little more if you were getting a lot of views on the baseball episode.
Yeah, dude, for sure. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, sports is like what I love. I'm all
Mhm.
about it, and I'm always trying like new things each season. I feel like on the show where I've done like a two-parter type show. I did one where I'm talking about people's careers for a season. I've done one where, I just feel like I'm always trying to do something to a new light. So I think it would be fun to kind of dive into more sports the next season and kind of see if maybe like even review games or dive into.
Yeah.
But
What you should do is call me and have me on for a weekly debate episode on sports.
okay, okay, I
I
like
love
that.
sports.
I
I
like
love
that.
it.
To be honest, I also want to do like I want to keep the Vibing with Sleazy forever, like and keep rolling with that. But I do want to do spin-off type shows. So
Right.
sports kind of debate show be dope, just like like they do now with like Skip and all them guys
Yeah.
like Shannon. That'd be
Yeah.
that'd be fun. That'd be a lot of
Maybe
fun.
stick two in a season, kind of wean it in. And
Yeah,
then
yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, we got to talk about that because that would be
absolutely.
perfect for the next football season, and that would be
Absolutely.
probably when I'm branching into doing another season with this. So that would be perfect timing. Um,
Love it.
the Bengals, yeah. So I am a Kentucky fan and a Bengals fan.
I had a feeling.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Kentucky, they shit the bed in March Madness. I really had high hopes for them, and then the Bengals. It's always tough being a fan. My backup team, and I'm not just saying it because they're hot. My backup team's always been the Lions with the
Yeah.
NFC.
Right.
It was cool seeing them do well, but yeah, it's been tough being a fan. I mean, I'm a Reds fan too. It's tough. I mean, overall, this my teams. It's like I choose misery over pleasure
Who
sometimes.
are you telling? I'm a U of L fan and a Falcons fan. Let me ask you this. Where do you stand on Coach Calipari?
Oh God. So
I had
okay.
to put you on the spot like that,
Oh
but
no, I love it. I love it. This is actually great to talk about because okay, Coach Cal, let me just say this. For the people listening that aren't from Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky basketball, those two schools, it's huge. Dynasties, won championships, both are historic programs. Kentucky has still been winning and doing well, but we've been shitting the bed in the tournament each year, and we're like first out when we should be making runs. Louisville, for the fans listening, they have had the Kenny Payne situation, and they've had Chris Mack. All it's just not been good. But they got a new coach today, which we'll be bringing up. But basically, that to kind of tie in the people who are not from Kentucky Louisville basketball. It's just passion here. We don't have pro sports,
love it.
so we root on. It's a big rivalry. With your question, I have been a Coach Cal supporter from day one, from the standpoint he's brought me great seasons, fun basketball games. I remember that national championship when Anthony Davis won. I remember that. However, he's outgrown his course. This past 2 years, I have been done with Cal. He can't change a defensive scheme to save his life. It's always the blame game. In my life, I've always respected people more when they take self accountability.
Yeah,
He can't take
absolutely.
self accountability. And to be honest with you, that's why him and Kenny Payne coached so well together those years in Kentucky, and that's why Kenny Payne's the way he is. Kenny also doesn't take self accountability.
No, sir. Not at
And
all.
it pissed off a lot of Louisville fans, and I
Yeah.
think he had every right. I'm friends with Nick Coffey, who does the afternoon sports show for U of L, and he has a lot of good takes on it. When things out do run their course, it's like you got to rip the band-aid. I mean, you
Right.
just got to.
Well, I have
So
a question for you.
yeah,
How great can you really be at anything if you don't take accountability? You know what I mean?
exactly.
Can you
That's
reach the mountaintop without taking accountability? Probably
it.
not.
No, not at all. And if you can't take accountability at the end of the day, you're going to blame everybody for everything. I mean, you stump your toe. What are you going to do? Yell at the table? It's like you got to just realize like shit happens. It's life. But at the end of the day, you got to take that self accountability to also improve and also get better. And that's
Right.
the thing with Cal. It's like these coaches have adapted to NLI or NLI.
Yeah. NIL.
Yeah, I'm sorry, going blank. Money. They've gone over the new recruiting systems. Just players, alone shooting the three ball. I mean, all this stuff that these older coaches like Calipari, Roy Williams, Bill Self, all these guys that have done or still coaching, they're trying to take on all these things. But at the end of the day, what's crazy is it's like you could see how they walked away. Like they're a few of them that are staying on, they're not having the success that they did because I don't think they're adapting to the new things, and you have to. And that's with everything in life, not just sports. Like when it comes to any evolution in life, you got to adapt to that stuff.
No, absolutely. I know a young teacher who told me one time that one of her grievances against older teachers is that they refuse to, kind of learn new ways to teach curriculum.
Yes.
Um, and she stood strong on that. And it's the same way with coaching, especially in college basketball and football. You have almost a perfect storm of things going on that would render older coaches useless.
Mm-hmm.
The NIL, and then you combine that with the transfer portal. These guys are having to spend way more hours, recruiting players and recruiting their own players every single year.
Yeah.
So you combine that with having to manage, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, and money that they feel like they're owed, or earn. That's just a lot for those older guys to grasp onto. And if you think about it, look at Nick Saban, look at Coach K. You see the older guys exiting. They're stressed out. Calipari's press conference, it looked like he didn't even know what to say. What do I say right here? I got young guys, da 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 da. Like, yeah, well, we know you have young guys. The problem is that I think the philosophy with the portal is that you go older and
Mm-hmm.
better because you can recruit them
Yeah.
much easier, and then B, you can also pay them. And so why not get the person who's closer to a man with experience, and skill?
But
So
what's bothered me too about Cal, because I do want to ask you a couple questions about U of L. The thing with Cal though that's bothered me, not just because of the failures in the tournament, the disappointments, of a short-ended season.
right,
What's really disappointing me is now that there is these NIL deals and these all these things that are to help players out and to pay players and recruit, just do anything to benefit the player and to help them out. Kentucky, there's literally guys that called in Kentucky Sports Radio that have been donors to the team, have endorsed the basketball program, and they're saying they can't even get a hold of anybody at the basketball thing. They can't even get these deals set up where they have deals where it's like multi-million-dollar deals just to get autographs from one player, pay
right,
him, pay the school, and then that guy will take those autographs and sell them. So those deals, they got to happen. But see, I think Calipari, he has his ego that he's better than things. And see, what's crazy when you listen to these donors and these people helping out Kentucky, they're connecting with football. They're connecting with all these other teams.
yeah,
Football is starting to become
it is.
the
Football's getting nice.
program of Kentucky
Right,
athletics.
football's definitely starting to look on the up and up for you guys. I love it.
Yes, and for that to be the face of Kentucky athletics, if you told me that 20 years ago, I'd be like, you're high as shit. The thing about it is, Kentucky football's never been at that level, and Stoops has brought it there. But the thing about it is, you can see though he's wanting money. He's asking the fans.
Right,
He's looking for those deals. Calipari's kind of like, let me just get you to the NBA. I'm comfortable. I'm getting paid, and I don't like that ego of it. And I just feel like if he started looking into those deals to help those players, and also too, I like that he finally admitted that he doesn't want to keep talking players into going to the NBA or, hey, don't come back. I think it'd be better if you go there. Because at the end of the day, people got to come back to build these teams and have success. I mean, freshmen aren't just always going to win, even if they have the highest talent. So he's really got to just adjust. And if he can't adjust, it's going to be a situation where Mitch Barnhart and UK, and I know Mitch Barnhart's about to retire, the athletic director for Kentucky, but he's going to have to swallow the 33 million and pay him and get rid
Yeah,
of it because you have a fan base that Kentucky basketball it's been around for 40 plus years.
it
That's
has
so
some
disappointed.
people's grandfathers are in their graves right now, rolling over. I
Oh yeah,
assure you.
dude, they're rolling like it's like a Limp Bizkit concert on repeat. Keep rolling,
Yeah,
rolling. They're just rolling.
yeah.
It's
And
crazy.
so one last gripe on Cal
Yeah.
before we get going is I've never been a fan of how he acts as if sending players to the NBA is an accolade. These guys are, top all-star McDonald's All-Americans rather. Um, they were going to the league regardless.
Yeah, exactly.
You could have put them in Portland or you could have put them, in San Diego State, wherever they were going to the league. You know what I mean? So he's to me always kind of been masking the fact he doesn't have a grasp of X's and O's like that. And I'm not a stark Kentucky hater. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, my brother, my mother, my father, they're UK fans, and all that jazz.
Yeah.
So I don't run around hating. So this is just my objective view.
No, no,
So
and I respect that because I'm not like a super hater in U of L. Like to give you a little flashback of my past with family and sports. All my family's U of L. My
yeah,
dad is U of L / Western. My dad was a season ticket holder to U of L football, so he used to bring me to games. And when I was a kid, I'd wear the other team's colors. Like if they were playing
yeah,
Army, I'd be wearing camo. My dad's like, God damn it, I can't take these. So the older I got, I'd show him respect by maybe throwing a black shirt on, a red shirt, but I'm not repping any of the team or nothing like that. And I'm always
right,
going to cheer on Kentucky when they're playing. But me and my dad also connected over football with that. And then I always follow Kentucky athletics, but the older I've gotten, I now follow U of L, not from a fan point. I'm still bleed blue, but I do like to see what's going on. Like I said, shout out to Nick Coffey. I listen to his stuff. I listen to a lot of Louisville sports radio because even with politics, like or anything, even with sports, anybody that has a different opinion, sometimes I'll just listen
yeah,
because I'm like, I want to kind of not hear the ops, but I want to hear what the fuck they talking about. That's like different from my viewpoint to see, so I can also relate when if I do get in a debate, I can be like, hey, okay, I know what you're trying to talk about, but let me tell you this.
yeah,
But I agree with you. That should not be an accolade because those guys would have came and gone. The thing, though, I will say I'm thankful for Cal before we get off the Cal train is he has made it exciting every year. I
he
mean,
has.
you got to
He's
think
done
about
that.
it. It's like Christmas morning every season for us Kentucky fans. We've been spoiled because we do have a few NBA players each year, so it is fun. But it's like the end of the season. It's like Santa comes in, gives you coal, takes all the gifts away, and now you have a first exit bow.
Yeah,
You completely eliminated by St. Peter's. By I don't even want to bring up the team this year. So it's just this is insane. So with
yeah.
U of L, being a U of L fan, let me ask you first, what were your thoughts on the Kenny Payne era, and did you feel like it was time?
So, since the Rick Pitino charade took place, and was carried out by people who are no longer there, I've been kind of mentally checked out a little bit. I don't know, I was very drawn to Rick Pitino coaching our team. I loved how he, walked the court like a mob figure in his white suit with his hair slicked back. And he looked like he cared. And as
Yeah.
a fan, I want my coach to care.
Mm,
You know what I mean? I don't want him to be indifferent. And that is what you had out of Kenny Payne. He was the exact opposite of what I want out of my coach.
yeah.
He was, as we said earlier, unaccountable. He seemed very indifferent. It's like, Kenny, what are we doing different in practice? And he's just like, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, it's like, what? You know what I mean? What are you talking about, Kenny? And then one of my coworkers and I, we have this funny thing we laugh at because Kenny Payne says like these same exact things in every press conference. There's probably a bajillion memes on it. So my take on the Kenny Payne era was it was, icing on top of a shit cake. You know what I mean? And the cake was baked, starting with Rick Pitino getting fired. He never even got indicted. They just up and threw him out, and Tom Jurich, our AD, although I do love our new AD. So I've been just checked out a little bit, honestly, on the basketball tip, on the football. I'm
Yeah.
still, I'm locked in. But I am super excited about Kelsey, our new coach.
Yeah.
Um, Let me tell you who he reminds me of. Sean McVay from the LA Rams.
I can see that.
Compact, he just looks like he'll, like literally bounce off a wall if he walks next to it. So I'm actually super excited. I don't care about his experience. If you think about, Coach K's, I read one of Coach K's books. I read a Rick Pitino book. These guys have coaching trees, and they were a part of a coaching tree. They came from nothing. They had, minimal D1 experience, or just were coaching under somebody else. So somebody having an awesome high level college job is not necessarily a prerequisite for me for you to come on as our head coach. Because if you think about it, if we were to get a coach, say Cal got fired and then we got Cal, well, then we would be getting Cal results. You know what I mean? Or
Exactly.
insert, Donovan. Insert any NCAA coach who's past their prime, but it's like infamous, right? So I think there's, almost a better chance of you winning if you can hit on somebody who's high character, cares. This guy clearly cares, high energy. If his energy's like that, talking into a microphone, I feel confident practices will be intense. U of L has been known for, two things primarily. We'll press you the whole game, full court if need be.
Yeah.
And we have phenomenal cardio, right? And there's just been none of that. So I'm looking forward to that.
And I totally agree with a lot of stuff that you said, because everything that you're saying, it's correct from the standpoint. Louisville was known as the cardio team, Preston team. You go to Rick Pitino's practice. I went to Rick Pitino camp. I played ball when I was a kid, and growing up, and I remember Rick Pitino camp was one of the hardest camps I went to, because you got pushed physically, you got pushed mentally, but it made you better. Rick's got his faults. We all got our fucking faults. I'm not going to judge anybody because I can't judge myself. But at the end of the day, for Rick, from a basketball standpoint, the dude's a Hall of Famer. He knows what he's got going on. I mean, he just said a speech here recently to St. John's team, and it was super motivational and strong. And he's been frustrated with that team. And But you can tell, though, unlike Kenny Payne, he didn't give up on that St. John's team. I mean, they almost beat UConn, who's probably going to end up winning the national championship again. So U of L, with these sports, like with all these sports programs around the country, getting these coaches and stuff, I think they actually, even though the fans were like, "Oh, we didn't get this guy," I think playing the little waiting game and the slower game and the hiring actually was smart, because you're right about this coach. And the number one thing about this coach that I think is going to be a winning thing for him, he's organized.
Yeah.
And you brought up another good point. He's passionate, but the biggest thing, the difference between him and Kenny Payne is Kenny Payne was opaque. I mean, you couldn't see through the guy. I mean, you couldn't even read how he felt, if he's happy, if he's mad. With this guy, transparency is what matters. And to be honest with you, you want transparency from your boss. You want transparency from your parents. You want transparency from your lover. If you're playing for a fucking coach, I don't want to know, oh, he's mad today because we lost to Syracuse. No, I want to know, what are we going to do better? What are we going to do? But it was more of like, oh, but they're picking on me. I played in the '80s here. Dude, you signed up for this. Like no one told you to. So, but I totally agree. I think the new coach is going to be a refresher, and I think U of L basketball needs it. And I think football for Brom, he's doing great, and I think Louisville finally got that. So I think the AD is good. I think a lot of fans sometimes on the U of L side, you said something about Kentucky fans. Let's say this about Louisville fans. They don't appreciate the good times, and when they outlast or when they're gone, that that unappreciation starts. I will say Kentucky fans have that appreciation, but they also have way too high of demand. So both fan bases have toxic culture, but
Yeah,
I wouldn't
absolutely.
want it any other way. And
Yeah,
I love being a part of it my whole life because it's
yeah,
like
bro.
if you don't live here and you haven't been a part of it, you just don't know the passion between both.
Right. No, it's serious. It's Hatfields and McCoy series.
Yes, exactly. And you don't even have to go to school, and you can be like, "Man, I fuck with Kentucky hard," like. So, but no, that was a good. I'm glad we talked about that. So that was some good topics. So, I want to spin off onto something that we connected about. So, um, I brought up in the beginning that you're a self learner on some things, and we connected on project management, house flip, and rehab. So, to kind of let the listeners know, I've talked about this before. I work for a company, a property management company, and for the past few years, for a few investors, they own a bunch of houses and apartments. And what I do is I hire the crews, I build the budgets, and then I kind of make the list, and I flip the homes and get them ready for the next renter. And what's been I've told Rico is what's been a positive thing is that I have been given opportunities to make money off sales and different things and learn things from people. And I still, even though 3 years, even though I've spent probably a few $100,000 each year for this company, like $300,000. I mean, like each year, just trying to flip homes and build it. I'm still learning. I'm still green.
Right.
So I'm always trying to network and connect with people, and then also too, when I learned about what Rico was getting involved in, and also I thought it was awesome how we were able to collab, and I was able to give you just people, prices, anything, ideas, and just also
Yeah,
just help you out in the beginning. I love doing that, and because we're all here for each other, and it's like a network
absolutely.
thing. And
Yeah,
so I gotta say that's one thing that I feel like you and I have really hit it off positively is that we've connected on that level where it's like we're here to help each other on that, and it's like, and I feel like we'll be busy for like a month, and then we step back up talking about something property
right.
like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So back to the wrestling, when you heard me say that and you were right there, that's law of attraction at its finest right there. You just
Yeah,
keep
dude.
putting it out everywhere you go and you might be sitting right next, to a guy. So
It's fate.
it's
Yeah.
fate. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was awesome. Also I want to give a shout out to Nate and his wife Amber, the painters you turned me on to. They
Awesome.
did a fantastic job. You could see one of the walls behind me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they did great. On point. Amber, is a whip.
Yes.
Nate apparently is a professional bowler. So,
Yes.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
supposed to link up with him next time he comes to Kingpin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna link up with him and come watch him.
Oh,
So,
they're great. So I will say this: I'm not just saying it. So they actually cleaned my carpets this morning. Nate and
yeah,
Amber did. So Nate and Amber, I have to shout them out. I'll definitely give them this podcast episode too. They've been great for me. I've worked for them the past few years. I've learned a lot from them. They've learned a lot from me. They listen to my deadlines. If I say jump, they say how high. They have been amazing, and their loyalty's been great. And then they've also been huge for my family and for the people. So not only are they great, wonderful people, but the effort they do, the passion, and also at the end of the day, like I'll call Nate up. He knows that it's a business. He knows the investors don't give a shit, but I'll call him up and just be like, because I'm a hype guy. I like to hype people up. I'll be like, hey, bro, they fucking were loving them floors. He'll be like,
yeah,
really? They love that? That's fucking awesome. So and I like hearing that from him because I like giving him that good job. And what's made me happy is not only his team, but I've sent other contractors I worked with to do work for like my grandmother, my dad, and they'll record while they're like there, not being weird, but they'll record
yeah,
or be like or just tell me what was said. And it always makes me happy how positive it is. Like they're like, Eric pays us. Eric gives great direction. Eric's fault. So them saying those things about me and them having that respect for me, it just makes me have more respect for them. And they also do so much crazy shit. So I
Absolutely.
love that I'm able to spread that and was able to provide that to you. And that makes me happy that y'all were able to connect that way.
No, definitely. And it's funny just how, when you connect with somebody, they'll refer you to somebody who else you'll probably connect with. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because you all
Yeah.
connected. Yeah, great dude all around. So yeah, that's kind of, my passion is networking, connecting with people, trying to help people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know what I mean? So, and real estate is just a great vehicle in which to do all of that, which is, as you touched on earlier, what I'm extremely passionate about, and trying to kind of spread this message to the world and all the people I care about. Anyways,
And I want to do something else. And I want to do a shout out to somebody that we both mutually love, Mary Jarrett. So I want to
Mary
shout out
Jarrett,
to Mary Jarrett. Some may call her Mary
big
Beth
dog.
Jarrett, but she's the OG. She is the legend. Let me just say something about Mary to give her her flowers. So the deal with Mary is I've known Mary since high school.
Yeah,
Mary was somebody that like I only knew for a little while in high school. I went into going to J Town. We ended up reconnecting when I was back in Louisville. And Mary's just that person. She's hilarious. She's fun to be around. One of the smartest people I've ever met. Very, very good on just bringing you up and getting you involved in networking. And she's the reason I'm a Kentucky Colonel. She actually wrote in and applied for me to be Kentucky Colonel. So shout out to her to give me that accomplishment. I was so appreciative of her doing that. And then also she got me on a Bill Stout. She got me kind of in the real estate game and got my foot in the door of just learning property management, learning things. And I've also, since doing that, was able to get a few other gigs, and I've been able to network with people and meet new notary clients and meet new renters and just meet all these people in general. So I just want to give her flowers. She is awesome. She's great. And if you are looking to buy or sell a house, definitely reach out to Mary. And I'll give her info at the end of the podcast. But yeah, it's somebody. Well, Mary's just a rare breed. She's not somebody
Mary,
that you meet like that. She's a special person.
she is. She's Mary Jarrett is high energy, and she is dialed in,
Oh
right? Every time I meet her, she's in tow with a backpack, um, and who knows what's in it, like Mary Poppins. But tons of stuff that has to do with real estate. Super dialed in. She represented me on this house that I'm in right here, actually. And what's so cool about Mary is that she is an investor as well. So, she kind of knows what I'm looking for when I'm looking for a property. So I didn't have to work hard to get any, seller disclosures. Any, as a matter of fact, she got me a report that really convinced me that I need to get this house. Like, she goes above and beyond. She's working the other realtor, working for you. I don't know that she sleeps, at all.
Oh,
She has
she is like a every time you see her is energy. It's like I don't
big
think it's
energy.
ever
Yeah,
turned down. And
yeah,
the thing about her too is that is cool is like she's one of those people that they ain't afraid to put her foot in the door. So like
right,
she did the Korea stuff. She's done the housing stuff. She's done the real estate things. And then she's also one of those people where you want to continue working with her because she's a person of her word, good character, and just overall just funny as fuck to be around too. I mean, she just makes you laugh. I mean, she's just
right,
hilarious. So it's good to have people, and I'm it makes me happy hearing that the mutual connections we've had have really been benefiting me. That's fucking awesome.
right. No, it is awesome, and that's how it should be. I read an awesome book that my friend Ed Mujic gave me called Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And basically what it is, this Roman emperor who grew up in like Stoicism and spent his whole life studying, these different schools of thought and philosophy. And, to summarize his book and his life's work in one theme, I think would be to try and enhance other people's lives is our purpose. You know what I mean? So that's real big for me. I'm always trying to, again, network, reach out. And if we do make a connection, how can we help each other? And that's just what it's all about.
I love it, man. I love it, and that's what I knew. Like me and you in the beginning, I could read your energy, and like I said, man, you're doing it, and then you're also the one thing also got to compliment you, man. A lot of people say they'll, oh, I'll do this, I learned that, I read about that. You're doing it. I mean, you're freaking doing it. So congratulations on that, man. I'm really proud of you on that, and like I said, man, you're gonna do big things with this, and I think um you start building that arsenal of people and all these things. I mean, dude, the world's yours, man. So I mean, that's awesome, dude. So I'm really happy for you on that, and that's great. So I want to dive into something from your past.
Yes,
So you
sir.
did serve time in prison in your
I did.
past, and we're not going to dive into like why he went to prison, all that stuff. What I want to dive into is because I wasn't going to bring it up on the show, but we actually just talked about something from a recent episode. So I gotta also thank you for being a fan of the show and
Yeah,
listening.
absolutely.
Um, I wanted to have you on since I met you at SmackDown, but you knowing you listen that was huge for me.
That's
So I did a
awesome.
Louisville crime episode, and I covered four really gruesome homicides that happened in Louisville. And one of them I covered was the Trinity murders, about two guys at Moby Dick who kidnapped and then end up raping and murdering two Trinity high school students back in the 80s. One served life, one got the death penalty. So I covered that. Go back to the Louisville if you want to listen to it. Vibing with Sleazy, True Crime Louisville Edition episode. It's up on all platforms. So, anyways, um, you reached out to me and you're like, dude, it's crazy. I was listening to that episode and I actually was doing time with one of the Trinity murderers. And when people meddled in prison, you'd be like, you don't want to end up like one of them Trinity boys.
Yeah,
So
they say yeah, you heard what happened to them Trinity boys. That's
that's
what they say. Yeah. It's a while, you'll hear it time and time again. But it's like said in jest. But it might be something like, I don't know, if somebody was opening their locker and somebody who they were cool with like peeked over their shoulder to see what they had in their locker, they might say, you heard what happened to them Trinity boys. And what was funny is like for the longest, I didn't even know exactly what the case was. So I used to ask people, what happened to the Trinity boys? Who are the Trinity boys? What I mean? So there was almost like a folklore derived uh from that story.
yeah, dude,
Which is
it's
insane, by the
really
way.
true. Oh, it's insane. I mean, dude,
Yeah,
it's
craziness.
literally insane.
Yeah, there's some crazy people in prison.
Dude, I could only imagine. And I'll be honest, I watch a lot of I watch different things on YouTube. I watch a lot of tourism, hip hop, gang stuff. I also watch crime stuff. I've watched there's one guy, his name's 1090 Jake. He does a YouTube channel called End of Sentence where he covers certain, crimes or rappers' crimes and things, and then kind of covers, what it might be like for them in prison, because he served a long time. And I'll just listen to some of those takes and you hear crazy stories, but you also you think about some of these crimes that got people into prison to like when it comes to like those violent, heinous stuff, it's almost like if there wasn't prison in a way, it's like um would they continue doing that? Or do you think it's a case where they might probably try to I don't know what they would do if there wasn't prison with like the Trinity murders and situations like that. Like what would happen? So it's always, it makes you wonder. It's like you say there's crazy people in prison. It's like, you wonder if there was no prison. It's like, if you kill somebody, they just kept moving. It'd be wild to have
Yeah,
to associate with that, with the Trinity
right.
murder all the time.
No, it would. And then I'm gonna tell you something else that there's like way more child molesters in this world than you ever imagined possible. It's disturbing. That was one of the more disturbing things early on for me is when I realized how many, child molesters there were. You hear about that here and there, like, you might have heard of that twice in your whole life, affecting somebody like from, you know, uh, for connections away from you. But there is a lot, and it's frightening.
It is no, it's definitely frightening. And when you watch these shows, like these catch the predator shows, all this stuff, a lot of these sick guys don't even act like it's a big deal, or like they're
No,
like
they're crazy
they're
people.
they're not they're not upset until they got caught. And so it's like it kind of gets scary when you when you hear kind of their takes and their opinions on it, and then two, it's like it, I hear, but I also hear from a lot of people, and you can tell me it's like they're outcasts though in prison, right? I mean, people you
Uh,
associate with them.
yeah, yeah, they're outcasts for sure. Also, you can kind of tell one when you see one. They're very distinct in that they're socially awkward usually. Uh, their clothes fit weird. I know that sounds silly, but like it's a thing. Um, I don't know how to. It's so nuanced, but you know one when you see
It's
one, right?
idea. You can ID it once you've known, kind of deal.
Right, and you know how they get handled and people's interactions with them vary. Uh, I'd say from prison to prison. Some prisons are more ruthless than other prisons, and you know they're probably the child molesters. That is, they call them chomos in prison, are probably in a hole somewhere or whatever. But sometimes they'll get extorted, so people won't want them to go to the hole or I don't know. Yeah, they usually kind of have it rough at most spots, I'd say. But they're just, they're disgusting to look at, be around, and all that jazz.
Oh, I totally get you on that. And talking about tough situations, I was watching a show on Alabama prisons, talking about the prison system in Alabama, and it's above the national rate right now on like fatalities that are happening and just crime in general, and then also people just dying in prison, and then there's no explanation besides we're just investigating, and that's what they keep getting back from the state of Alabama. So it's not only bad there, it's bad everywhere, but because there's got to be like, and asking you from serving time, that in your opinion, there's got to be a reform. There's got to be a way to improve this because I mean we're I understand people are going because of crime, but it's like some of the things you hear, it's not that's not even fair to somebody that did that. That's not fair.
Right. So I'll give you my situation, and for the audience, I was convicted of a juvenile offense, a robbery as a juvenile. My co-defendants were adults. There were three of them, and they were apprehended 3 to 4 months before me. So they were fighting their case before me. Um, Long story short, on that, they ended up with 7 years at 20% and below, and I ended up with 15 years at 85% probate, which is vastly different. If your sentence is 20%, that means you can go up for parole on 20% of your time. So, for instance, if you have a 10-year sentence at 20%, you're going up for parole and could go home in 2 years. If you have 10 years at 85%, you're doing 8.5 years before you go home. So our sentences were drastically different, and there was no different in the involvement in crime. And my point is that there is just an overpopulation in prison caused by many factors, one of which is people get over sentenced. For instance, with my situation, you can't really explain the disparity between my sentence and adults
Mm-hmm.
who were involved in the exact same thing and pretty much the exact same way, mine not being to a higher degree, being to a lesser degree. So there's just a ton of people in there with way too much time. And what mine worked out to was 10 years and 10 months, by the way. So I think it's about like $33,000 to fund a inmate's life per year while they're in prison that comes out of taxpayer money, right? So this should matter to everybody. Now, certain people, do belong in prison. There are really insane. I mean, I'm talking about insane, crazy people like, child molesters, people who, rapists or like schizophrenic people who, did these crazy things. But a lot of times there's stuff that goes on. Like I have a friend who has 50 years at 85%, right? And he his life was threatened in Iroquois projects. And so he ended up allegedly killing a man when they ran back into each other as he was leaving an apartment. I think they had got into a fight at the apartment. The guy told my friend he was going to kill him next time he saw him. If he caught him leaving, well, he caught him leaving. But my friend responded first, and he ended up with 50 years at 85%. And I read his appeal, so I have the facts of the case. This isn't hearsay per se. And what it is that there's no nuance. There's a I don't know that we have stand your ground in Kentucky, but there's a general self-defense law, everywhere.
Yeah.
But when you put the context in impoverished neighborhoods, that right is taken away. And what it turns into is like gang violence or something like that. But it's much more nuanced than that. And so just you have a ton of people doing too much time, and then you have drug users who keep getting sentenced to prison time instead of rehabilitated. But what I will say in regard to rehabilitation, that opportunity is there for you if you take it.
Yeah.
In certain aspects, not rehabilitation that the prisons will provide, but you have the opportunity to rehabilitate yourself.
Self really, yeah, and that's where it's like you gotta make a decision on kind of what you want to do in that aspect. And the thing I want to ask you a couple questions. So regarding prison, when you first got there, what was your feeling over? Well, like, did you already have in your mind that, okay, I got to serve time, I'm just gonna tough it out, or were you just like, fuck, like, what is this place? I mean, or did you get any lessons beforehand, like any education for it?
No, I didn't get any education beforehand. But what you feel when you first get in is a wide range of short-term and long-term emotions and thoughts. But when I first got in, I just knew that, because what I went to prison for was that sentence, that 1585, was probated for 5 years, right? In my fifth year of probation, I got a DUI for, well, obviously drinking and driving, but I got pulled over for speeding in a speed trap. And what dang, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. What were we just saying?
You're talking about the speed trap, and you're talking about
Oh,
your
right
and then how you got into speed trap, DUI.
No, oh, the thoughts arriving in prison. So
Yes,
when
sir.
I first arrived, it was like, man, I feel like I'm in here for a DUI about to do forever. But at the same time, um, somebody very early on gave me the book The Secret about the law of attraction, and I'm not about to go on some diatribe about law of attraction and be that guy, but I like bought in, right? Because I'm not a very religious person. I am a curious person, but just you know not super religious. So that really spoke to me, and I read it every night like a Bible. And so very, because when you first go in, you need hope to cling on to. Hope is what gets you through, right? So that just happened to be what I clinged on to. And so I knew that the way that I got revoked was bogus, because um, they passed two laws the year before I went in that had two stipulations before you can revoke somebody out probation. And the court did not satisfy those two stipulations in my case. So 3 years into prison, I won an appeal. So that 3 years, I believed the whole time. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I just
Yeah.
almost willed myself out. But I was also in the legal library every day, the law library every day, on the computer looking up case law, da 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 da. And I put my case together, and this awesome lady named Renee Vanden Walbeek from the Department of Public Advocacy, who represents people and a lot of juvenile offenders on their post-conviction needs. And she typed it up for me, got it together, and I won, which is crazy. The odds of that are ridiculous. Go back to the county, lose the new revocation hearing, and then after that, a different long-term emotion set in. Obviously, that was extremely difficult, losing that appeal, because I really felt like I was in the right. Friends and family filled the courtroom, and I had them dead to rights by the law. And it just didn't work out. So after that, there was more of a feeling of acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And once I accepted my circumstance, I was, I think, able to take the steps to start growing as a person. And I'm getting older as this is happening, right? So I'm getting wiser as this is happening. I'm maturing more as all this is happening. That's a unique thing about prison, actually. And so it was a culmination of all those things that gets you the end result when you get out of prison. So, people's journeys in the middle, they vary, and that'll determine the outcome, I think.
Did you, when you got there, did you feel like a bunch of people approach you, or do you feel kind of isolated and you got to kind of figure it out on your own?
No, so again, I'm a juvenile offender. So I caught my case when I was 16. I was 3 months into being 16. So I went to a juvenile justice or detention center called JCYC. Um, and so, what's wild is a lot of the same guys who I met there, you know, I saw in prison throughout the years. And when you get to whatever prison, you'll probably know a few people here and there from jail or juvenile or from the streets or whatever the case may be. So it wasn't so much that, it was more of trying to figure out how this operation works, because it's a living, breathing thing. People are moving, hands are shaking, things are going on. You have to be on your P's and Q's. So I was really more so just adapting, I think, as quick as possible.
Do you feel
And
like,
you asked the question,
oh, I'm sorry.
sorry, you asked the question if I knew anything beforehand. Uh, I had a mentor right when I got in. It's funny, I'm a debative person. We got in a debate about whether there's I think a pasta aisle or a spaghetti aisle, right? He thought spaghetti represented all pasta. And so that was our debate. But anyways, he kind of like put his shoulder around me and like gave me the do's and don'ts, like zombie land style. Rule 2A, don't do this. Always pay your milkman, know your personnel. Like, I could fire him off. And I mean that almost in a literal sense. And so from a very early stage in that bid, uh, I had a pretty fundamental idea about how I personally need to operate within all this.
How common is it for gangs in there? Like, is there a lot of would you say gangs if where you were at? I know some prisons there's different gang systems, but did you find that getting brought up a lot, or everybody's kind of serving their time?
No, everybody's just kind of serving their time.
Yeah,
A lot of what you see on TV uh, isn't necessarily how it is in Kentucky. Now, Kentucky's, different from every other state's prison systems. But if you think about like Kentucky in general, there's just not a lot of gangs, right?
yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah, that's kind of how you end up with those gang systems in prison, like somewhere in Indiana or Chicago or some, where members are coming in, and then kind of doing whatever inside.
What would you say food was like? I mean, food and drink. Like, did you get have to
Yeah.
get used to that? Does that?
Eric, Sleazy E, the food was piss poor, is what it was.
That's what I was.
If you all have friends and family who are locked up right now, please send them a bet. That means, send them $20 or something like that, because breakfast is served at 4, to 4:15, 4:30 a.m. Lunch is served at 10 to 10:30 a.m., right? And then dinner is served at 3 p.m., right? So think about if you ate your last meal of the day at 3 p.m., right? You'll be extremely hungry by the time 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. rolls around, especially because all of your meals were front loaded at the end of the day, right? I mean, at the beginning of the day, right? And it's tough, but the food itself is also just atrocious. It's boiled potatoes, it's sheets of mechanically separated chicken. I saw two cooks take a sheet of mechanically separated chicken, probably like a 3 by 2 foot sheet, break it in half and put it in a big boiling kettle, right? And not break it up. So that's how that was cooked. Just just like that, boiled in water in two big sheets. Um, it's just awful.
Yeah, no, and that's where the reason I ask these questions too, and again, you are many billion different awesome things, and that's not what I was talking about. I was just like, oh, I want to talk about prison with Rico. I want to
No,
dive
no,
in
it's
that.
cool.
But if you had certain time, there was questions I wanted to ask. But there's also the reason I brought up some of the questions is because I also feel like you said, it needs to be highlighted. It needs, I mean, people need help in there, and we have to have change, and there has to be improvement. I mean, I know, like you said, there's rapists, there's serial killers, there's child molesters. Yeah, they don't deserve that, help, and oh, let's look out for them. But people like you, people that just drug related charges, anything that, like, these people need help. They don't need to be treated like animals and treated like they're not taken care of. And also too, it's like, we gotta, like you said, there's people serving too much time, and you brought up the cost, and it kind of makes you think in your head. It's like, we always bring up costs and everything in the world. It's like, if they would maybe build more programs, maybe more reform programs, more halfway houses, more places for people to rehabilitate at home, they could end up saving more money, and there wouldn't be as many prisons. I could go on and on, but I just I just wanted to bring up, ask you a few questions, because it's like, I just feel like that needs to be highlighted.
No, absolutely. Let me tell you this too. Let me give you this bit of information. So, one of the more common uh, crimes that people are convicted of in prison is either robbery or complicity to robbery one. And robbery one has a violent, that makes it violent, that it's one instead of two or three. And that violent, the violent designation carries along with it 85%. This is important for here in a minute. So the language of the statute is broad. So it's hard to win an appeal based on this. But if somebody robbed somebody, right, and nobody was hurt in the incident, then, and all you have to do to qualify for robbery one as a violent offense is make the other person feel like their life was in danger while you committed the robbery, which means that it doesn't have to necessarily be with a pistol, knife. It could be, you could have your hand in a water gun in your shirt or whatever the case may be. Also, not justifying any of those behaviors, but I'm giving you context. So, what happens is you have a ton of guys, especially juveniles, who get convicted of 10s and 15s at 85%. That's 85% of their sentences and years that taxpayers are paying on these guys, right? For crimes in which nobody got hurt. But because of the broad language of the statute, it's deemed a violent offense. And robbery two is literally a robbery where nobody got hurt, but that carries 20%. And here's a little bit of extra nuance. You rarely see Black people with robbery two. You mostly only see, I think I met one Black guy who had robbery two. A lot of white guys get robbery two, and young Black dudes get robbery one. And what you have going on there is just a massive amount of time and people's lives and taxpayer dollars that are just going to waste because of broad language in a statute. And also, robbery one is attached in the subsection to like rape and child molestation. So in order to really in order to change that, you would have to remove that from the statute, which I imagine is some whole ordeal, in Frankfurt or whatever. But nonetheless, that there's that, and then just tons of stuff like that going on. There's commissary inflation. A carton of eggs in there right now, right when I left, just cost $4.50. When I think when I came down, they cost 99 cents maybe, or 150, right? What happened was with that salmonella birth, something happened and eggs went up out here, right? Last year sometime, right? So it took a minute for those prices to be reflected in prison. But when they did finally get reflected out here, the eggs became not so much of a problem. Although I think we're about to see prices increase right now for some reason. But the past year, you could get eggs for $1.49 a carton, whatever. And there's still $4.50 in there. So there's just all types of ways that companies and the system takes advantage, of these guys. And, you can't just let people run around, obviously, and commit crimes, and people need to be penalized. But I think there is a over penalization, and then sometimes people not being sent to the appropriate facility to handle exactly, what their issue is in society.
I totally agree, and I think there is, it just the justice system right now, it's messed up. I mean, it is definitely needs corrections, and I think too that there you only got one life to live, and people that write these laws and write these things and make these judgments, I just hope they take that into effect too, because it has to be taken seriously, and and it seems like it's getting worse and worse and not better.
It
Um,
is.
it's
Um,
scary.
yeah, it's tough. And another thing that's so interesting is each prison almost operates as its own municipality, kind of. Right? Let me give you an example. In the pandemic, right? The warden all of the sudden became an epidemiologist and was responsible for the isolation and management of the spread of COVID. I want you to think about that. This person was probably a caseworker or something like that, maybe like a regular CO, and then became a caseworker, and then just kind of stayed with it until they became a warden. I don't know. I'm surely there's some extra training hours that are involved, but I'm not sure there's any extra degrees or anything like that. And my point is that they operate how they want to. And I want to take this moment to highlight the Rotor Correctional Complex, which is where I was housed at in LaGrange. I watched during the pandemic and afterwards. I literally watched you know, I watched two people die. I watched a guy lose his toe because his blood sugar made it all the way up to 700 something before he got help.
Oh my God.
Um, the guy I watched die, he caught COVID, right? And then after that, I don't know if this is because of COVID, whatever, but he ended up getting congestive heart failure. And at the time, I was an EMT, so I recognized it. And his legs started swelling up. He started having edema. There's fluid everywhere, and um, he couldn't walk. People were wheeling him on a wheelchair to the chow hall, and this was going on for like a couple weeks. And I mean, the fluid was building rapidly.
Yeah.
And I remember just one poignant thing that stood out to me was he asked somebody to go get his chow for him because he just didn't feel like going over there. The medical staff knows he's messed up,
Yeah.
right? They're not sending him to the hospital, is the problem. Um, and the guard, Brent Bond, who was working, told the guy he asked to get his food for him, you need to go back and tell him he needs to walk over here and get his food, right? And
Yeah.
everybody knew he was messed up, right? So that's a messed up facility. I don't wish the feds on anybody, but I hope, hope the feds swoop in and do an investigation similar to like what happened in the LMDC on the Rotor Correctional Complex of LaGrange. They just, don't abide by any of their own rules. Medical care is questionable. I had a nurse, I'm not even making this up. I promise, on everything. I have heart arrhythmias. So, my medication, I see a cardiologist, yada, yada. Well, I have something called SVT where your heart beats extremely fast under certain circumstances, and it's like an electrical issue with your heart. And I had surgery from there, and it was everything's documented. They know this. They know the medical staff knows me. They know what the issue is, and but they don't like sending people to the hospital, right?
Is that because of
By the
paperwork?
way, on the guy who died in the huh?
Why is that? Because of paperwork, or are they just being assholes?
Well, there's a combination of things. To give the devil its just due, you do have a ton of guys, especially at the rotor. You have a ton of guys who are passing through because of the assessment center. So they're always like trolling nurses and coming up with crazy stuff. Probably, and again, there's crazy people. The crazy ones are really doing it. So it's almost like every time I went to medical, I felt like I had to prove my case that I'm telling the truth every single time. I felt like I was on trial trying to prove, what's wrong. And but this one time, I had an episode. I was outside playing basketball. I shouldn't have been, and my heart jumped up to 200 beats a minute out of a normal rhythm. Um, and so the medical staff comes over there, I'm convincing them I'm telling the truth, and they get me into a room, and the nurse runs a EKG, now called an ECG, I believe, on me, which is where they put the stickers on you and get your heart rhythm. Well, I was sweaty from playing basketball, and she couldn't get a read the first time. So she has the other nurse calling their boss to see if they should send me out. And so that guy, Brent Bond, the guard who was messed up, who I told you about earlier, he was actually standing in there for this. The nurse ended up getting a reading on me while the other nurse was on the phone. And the reading showed that I was in SVT and had a, irregular heartbeat of 200 beats a minute. And the other girl hung up with the phone before she read that to her. So the doctor or the practitioner who the girl who was on the phone spoke with said, send me out if, it's absolutely bad or my reading comes back bad. Well, the girl took that reading, the SVT, kept it. She printed it out. She even explained it to the guard, Brent Bond, what SVT is, right? And then took another one, and I was still in SVT. And it was like something to the effect of, well, I think he'll, oh no, what it was when she took the other one, I snapped out of it because like the way you get out of it is you kind of squeeze down, uh, like you put pressure in your chest basically, and that'll sometimes bring you out of it. So I brought myself out of it. She printed a regular one, kept the regular one. I didn't get sent to the hospital, right? And you have something in your heart called try something, and when they get elevated, you're at risk of more arrhythmias, and they get elevated after you have one, right? And so I asked for a records request like a week later to get my EKG report so I could take it to my cardiologist next time I went. And she threw away the one that showed that I was in SVT. And I agree. I probably was fighting the grievance for like, 4 to 5 months on this, appealing it to Frankfurt and everything. And I just had no way to prove it. And I thought, how crazy is this place where a guard watched this and I used him as a witness in my grievance, watch her take this. She explained it to him. But now it's gone, and I'm a crazy person. So, but anyways, and I'm sure every prison has their stuff, but they're especially messed up. The pandemic was tough, and if you have loved ones in prison, please, take care of them and believe in them.
Yes, yes, and yeah, definitely support them, take care of them, be there for them, and because also it's not only a physical thing, it's a mental thing, and everybody, no matter what you're going through, everybody has mental issues and mental things they got to overcome, and so like we've said many times on this episode, it's important to be there for each other and for be there. So I want to thank you for taking the time to answer those questions. So again, I know it's not the most positive experience, but you saying that I think brings a light, and also it's for educational purposes too, that people need to know this stuff, and also like you said, change got to happen, and
Yeah,
and I think it takes stories like this and exposure for people to wake up and know what's going on. So
absolutely.
I want to talk about something a little bit more positive before we wrap up the episode. So overall, growing up in J Town, growing up in Louisville, I kind of wanted to do this. It's like, who is Rico? I'm still learning you. So tell me,
Yeah,
what are some of your passions besides the things that you've learned here recently, and things that I've gotten to know you about? Kind of teach me about who Rico is, and for the listeners.
yeah. I'm a learner. I'm inquisitive. Uh, I'm competitive. I'm debative,
Mhm.
which is why I think we would do great on a
We would,
sports show.
yeah.
Um,
We're doing that. We're doing that next year.
yes.
That actually we'll do it at the end of this year. I think that we need to do that for football season. I
No,
think, yeah.
that's gonna be awesome. Regular guy, like to gamble, love my family, love my friends. I'm a big believer in maintaining your friendships as you get older. That's so important. I see a lot of people just letting their friendships go to the wayside, and that's a travesty because you got older and had a family. So I'm very big on that. I'm a walking CRM program. I'm sending text out here and there. I may not, if you text me, I may not text you back for like a couple days or something like that, or whatever. It's because I'm extremely busy, and that's another thing. I try and keep myself busy and just work, man. If I had to be known for one thing, though, I'd rather be known for being a hard worker. Well, two things with great integrity.
Yeah, and no, you are, man. Because I'm telling you, the people that have been around you say that, and then I say that as well, man. You definitely, like I said, have impressed me, and I'm really glad to have you as a friend. Um, I want to ask you as well, man. So getting out of the prison thing in the real world here of like being back to society, what are some of the things that you've fallen in love with again, like flavors, food, things to do, stores? I mean, what is some things that here recently you've been like, hey, I'm man, I haven't been here in a while. This is cool as fuck, that kind of shit.
Yeah. Um, I don't want to sound like cliche, but to be honest, I really truly love all of it. I'm just super thankful every day for everything I interact with. Even if I have what somebody would consider a bad day, I'm not even playing. I genuinely just think about where I could be, and how much better this is. But specifically in Louisville, some places that just really, grab my eye and fascinate me, and differences I've noticed is the Phoenix Hill area looks so much better. Bardstown Road, the Highlands is much more integrated, which is awesome. Uh, Lou City, uh, loving that.
Yeah,
The stadium that is. Uh,
we'll have to go to a soccer game, man, this year.
yeah, no, absolutely. I got invited by my girlfriend Haley's friend Molly Berba, and I turned it down at the time, and now I regret it. Uh, the infrastructure is a little different. The highways, and that's about it. Other than that, truly, I go to work. I study real estate. I'm in Google Data Analytics right now. Um, I bet on NASCAR on Sundays. Uh,
Nice. Okay, what got
yeah.
you into NASCAR?
Uh, well, gambling on parlay tickets.
Hey,
And,
I hit a baseball one last night for opening day, man, and I'll be honest, I was like, oh, it feels so good. So
no, no, it does feel good, especially like NASCAR ones are the best because a race is, what, 3, 4 hours, whatever. And, if you make it to where, you have a chance with 20 laps to go, there's no more exciting feeling. But what I love about it is it's data driven. You know, on some tracks they practice, they qualify on all of them. They all have records. They all perform a certain way on different distance tracks, and then different types of tracks, road course versus oval, whatever. So there's just tons of data, and in my opinion, it's the easiest thing to bet. Uh, but yeah, man, just
never given NASCAR a shot, dude. I've bet on every sport, but I've never bet on NASCAR. Now I think I want to give it a shot. I mean, that
well,
sounds
hey, I hit last weekend and I sent my bet to a lot of my friends, which always feels better when you do that ahead of time, and told everybody, hey, you need to get on this. I actually have a degenerate gambler group chat that I'm a part of.
okay.
Yeah, 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 it's funny. I stole that
And
idea
Nate,
from my brother,
Nate
Chad
bets
Brady.
too. Nate bets too.
Who? Oh,
Nate,
Nate, does he?
yeah, we were comparing. So he puts a bet in every day. I'll do it every couple days, and me and him will talk and like we'll compare and shit. So like when they were cleaning my carpets this morning, he's like, "Look what I hit," and I'm like, "Hey, look what I hit." And we're like comparing while Amber's doing the work. I'm like,
We'll have to start a gambler group chat together then.
"Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
dude."
Oh, so
And
I'll put my
Amber loves it
NASCAR
too.
this in there.
Amber's big on it too, dude.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
yeah,
Something that's awesome to do in the wintertime is like if you have like a chat like that, each of you put a leg on a parlay,
I
and
like
then
that.
on NFL specifically, not winter, excuse me, fall, like NFL specifically, that's an awesome way to get your parlays in.
You
So
know what we should do is with this, if we do this sports debate, and we'll have to talk like we'll get together, we'll have to talk about like a tile or something. We
yeah, I
should
got hot
and I
takes.
should put it on like the Vibing with Sleazy network, and we figure out
Yeah.
something to me and you
Oh yeah,
debate.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I want to build like I was talking to my buddy Josh. Shout out to Josh Wright. I was talking about him too coming on to Vibing with Sleazy sometimes because he's real big on like researching and like asking questions. But I was telling him I want to build kind of more of a platform where I can build kind of a network. I can do a few other different type of shows. And you bring
That'd
up
be
that
awesome.
sports thing, that's where it all. It's just like we were talking about with SmackDown. It just all ties in. How it's like perfect time when we're talking about this. So I think what would be great. We come with the title. We come with the show. But what would be really cool is if we talked about each up and coming week of games and we released it before that week of games.
Yeah,
We do our own parlay pick each week, and then we
I love that.
keep the record track, and then like each week people buy in, and then what's crazy is the goal is to have a betting platform pick you up and be like, hey, there's a parlay each week.
Yeah. Please, let us advertise. Um, so people, you are watching something, get brewed up right before your eyes.
Yeah,
Look out this
I
fall
love it. I love it. This is
on the
that's a
Vibing
great idea
With
because,
Sleezy
dude,
platform.
it's so I'm so in. I'm like already my brain's spinning on it because I feel like there's such a wide range of topics and somebody I'm going to tell you to listen to. So if you get time, look them up.
Okay.
So it's Chris Broussard and
I
Rob
know, Chris.
Parker. And Rob Parker is
Oh,
a
wow.
Hall of Fame reporter from Detroit. Did a bunch of
Oh, wow.
baseball, basketball.
Wears terrible suits.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yes, exactly. And they have
Yeah.
a show called The Odd Couple, and it's
Okay.
on radio. And it's literally Chris is a sports person, but he is super religious, super family man. Kids are in
Yeah.
college. Rob divorced, goes to the strip club, eats wings,
Yeah.
loves
Yeah.
betting on baseball and basketball.
Yeah.
So
Fire for me
they're
is
all
clean. Yeah.
it's great. It's great, dude. And so I think
Yeah.
we could bring some kind of aspect to that where what it seems like when I listen to the show, it's just Chris going over different topics, and then out of nowhere, he's like, "All right, Rob, what do you think about the Pistons?" And then Rob be like, "They're piss poor. They're terrible. I'll never
Yeah.
watch them again." And then Chris is like, "Oh, you being too crazy." But they make it fun. And then I'll listen to those kind of type of radio shows. But I think what you're bringing up, it's like that is something I want to do as well because not only is betting getting so big, but it's something for somebody to listen to each week. It'd be fun to get that also on a schedule because I feel like people get attracted to like I like doing the way I do this show where I release the random days, but I think people will get attracted to being like, oh, every Tuesday is that show or every
Oh,
when
that's definitely a big thing. Which, by the way, I also am a certified, digital marketer now. So, when we get that going, I'll be able to advertise it and have it in people's IG feeds and YouTubes, whatever. Um, and also, I am a hot take wizard, and I don't like calling them hot takes, but it's more or less like I see the world through a different lens. I read the book Freakonomics, and I was never the same. And, when the world was saying Jalen Hurts was a top 5 quarterback on his way to the Super Bowl and had Lamar out of it, I was like, have you all lost, your GD mind? You know, uh, Dak Prescott, I've been telling the world, this guy's not it, and here we are.
overpaid,
He's about to
overpaid.
get shopped. Not even overpaid. He should have been out of town a long time. I can look at a quarterback and tell you if he's going to be a Super Bowl winner or not. Or
Yeah.
I can at least tell you if they're not going to be.
Hmm.
It's something, in their eyes. And I told the world the value of Draymond Green through and through and stood by crazy Draymond's side. So,
Which what do you
told
think about him doing that again the other night? Draymond,
uh,
it's
I
it's
mean,
back and forth.
yeah, at this point, it's super annoying actually, and I'm a stark advocate for Draymond because I love his game. He reminds me again, hot take. He looks like Magic Johnson in the postseason. Like his IQ is so crazy, and he's a forward who brings it up and it makes all the best passes and bounce pass game is on fleek. Like he's just crazy. But that behavior is just starting to make more withdrawals from my bank account, anyways, than the deposits that I get from his game.
Yeah. And I think too with him, the thing that is bothering me the most is you nailed it. He's so intelligent. He podcasts. I can listen to him talk. He's great when he goes on TNT. Like he was part of their All Star Weekend cast. Like he's a good addition talking me, and he's not an idiot. I mean, he went to
Yeah.
Michigan State. I mean, he knows it. But I get having anger and upset, getting the things, but it's getting to a point where it's like you are fucking up the team. And Curry is sitting there like, what do I got to do? Like, but
Right.
I'm also an advocate for, sometimes the refs can be sensitive. I get all that, but it's like you got to learn also. You got to read the room. You're towards the end of the season. You're trying to
Yeah.
qualify for a playoff spot.
Right.
The West is tough as it is, and then you got
Tough
Draymond
and young.
going crazy.
Yeah. No, it's unfortunate. And he cost them a champion against LeBron. That Cavs epic comeback uh finals victory, I think, was because Draymond Green was suspended that series, which he shouldn't have been, but he was. Uh But if he didn't do all the if he didn't make all the withdrawals before that moment, he wouldn't have been suspended. You know what I mean? So he's cost him a championship. He's just constantly costing him, and I can only fight for dudes so long.
Well,
But still,
let me say this. So before we wrap up the show, let me ask you two things.
all right.
Give me your finals. Give me your finals champion. Who's the NBA champion this year? I know there's still a few games left, and there's going to be the playoffs, but who's pulling it off?
I think Boston's gonna win this year. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and those boys. They're just clicking right now. They're high powered, and I think that piss poor performance that Jason Tatum had against the Warriors will be redeemed. And I never really liked the Celtics, but I do believe that they'll win. Well, yeah, I do. I believe they'll win. But Joker's different. If they face Joker, that's tough. I don't know. But Celtics is my pick. I'm going Celtics.
I was gonna go with the Nuggets. I'm just because of Jokic, but I do believe the Celtics will be the Eastern Conference Final because they're tough and they do fumble though the bag sometimes. Like when they played the Hawks, who are a mediocre team, they ended up. You're like, I think the Hawks ended up taking them to OT the other day or something. Like pulled off by a couple. It's like they'll lose these fluke games, but then they'll win by 30. And then what's crazy though, and what makes the Celtics such a good team, you got two guys that can drop 30 a game. No,
Right.
every game. And so
Right.
it's fun seeing that. Now, my other question: Who's winning the national championship? I'm going UConn because that was who I picked on my bracket, and they're tough. Who do you think?
Yeah, I actually picked UConn with somebody else. In college basketball, I'm just going where the talent and skill is. I'm not trying to get fancy here. I mean,
Yeah,
they're clearly just, a dominant team. And I think that'll be the case through the end of the big dance.
probably got three NBA players there on their team too. I mean, they're strong. That coach, he's confident. He's a little cocky, but he knows what he's doing. So,
Yeah.
but I got to say this. So, thank you for being on the show, man. It's been a blast. I really appreciate learning about you, and I appreciate you teaching, the listeners and myself about yourself, about prison, about house flipping, about sports, about your passion for U of L UK, everything you do. Like I said, I think that's also why we hit it off. We like to get our feet wet in all different aspects, and so it's like I feel like when we start recording the sports thing, and I'm of course going to have you back on with Vibing With Sleezy, I feel like we'll be
Yeah.
having another hour and a half of just crazy stuff to talk about. So before we get off the show and before I do my little spiel, I want people to be able to not only shout you out, just talk about real estate, but just connect, network. Like you said, you're all about building people up. How can they connect with Rico?
Okay, so my nickname that I earned actually in prison, and I earned it through something positive, winning a Mr. Olympia contest,
Okay.
became Greek. So it's actually funny to hear people call me Rico now because I just haven't heard that in so long, like years and years and years. Because everybody, who I've met, I'm in close with now for the most part, calls me Greek. But anyway, so my Instagram, you can follow me at Greekimus Maximus. That's GreekimusMaximus and Greekimus on TikTok. I have a decent TikTok too. I put out a lot of real estate for rookies content and just trying to keep you motivated to get out and get it.
That's awesome, man. And again, man, I'm telling you, people, this guy will teach you some things. And just after having a conversation with him, reach out to him, ask him for a cup of coffee. I'm telling you, you'll learn something,
Yeah.
and it'll be
Let's
it'll
go
be
get
a good
something to eat.
exchange.
Let's shake hands.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then also, before we sign off and before I do my spiel, I want to thank you again. You purchased me the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I
Yes.
thought it was great. And so, very motivational. The big thing to take away from it is, assets, liabilities, those different things. And I don't know if I wanted to ask you this real quick before we sign off. We could probably go on for 3 more hours, but the thing I was going to ask you,
Be careful. Don't get me started on real estate.
yeah, yeah. But we'll do another episode. But with the book, the author, did you see him in the news
PSI.
recently? Did you
In
see
the
him?
news? No. What do you do?
So he was in an interview, and somebody was like interviewing him or something, and he was just very aggressive in the interview. Kind of just was like, kind of, I don't think liking the question or the answer and stuff. And you could just tell how passionate he was. And then he also was bringing up like he had so much debt in some situations, but he's still doing this. So it was just, it was crazy that it's like you got me that book. I learned about him. My boss also talked about him. And then out of nowhere, I see him doing
Yeah.
passionate, fiery
Well,
interviews and talking about his book and stuff.
yeah, let me tell you this real quick. I heard him on a podcast after I've read three of his books actually. And I heard him on a podcast at some point and did not like him. You know what I mean? So I have to compartmentalize him from my relationship with his books.
That's what Bill told me, my boss. Bill told me, and so did my other boss, Kyle. They were like, he's a very, very interesting kind of dynamic. Somebody you kind of gotta, take what he's saying, but realize it might be a little harsh and kind of deal. But at the
Right.
end of the day, it was wild just to see him back in the news there. But again, thank you for being on the show. Everybody
Thanks for
that's
having me.
listening, Vibing with Sleazy, the podcast, Facebook, Instagram, vibingwithsleazy.com, the website. Shout out to AJ Thomas. He's been working on my website. He actually got all 4 seasons up now. And when season five's over, he'll get those up. So he's been doing great work with that. I got more episodes coming. So this is episode 9. So I got right now I got about 12 more coming. So stay tuned for that. Listen. But everybody, we are out. Peace.